the United States needs to be and is big enough, powerful enough, important enough to do more than one thing at a time. It needs to be a positive force for good internationally, and to protect the dispensation which has lasted since the Second World War of rule of law, liberal democracy holding sway in Europe and increasing its spread around the world, rather than signaling to tyrants that it will give up.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. And Hugo, this week, the Russian government placed you on a list of extremists and terrorists because you made the decision to publish an op-ed from one of our commentary writers, Tom Rogan, who is alongside you on that list. Tell us about how you got that label from Russia.
Well, it actually goes back rather a long way. Back in 2018, Tom wanted to write a piece, and did indeed write a piece, suggesting that Ukraine should destroy the bridge that Russia had built after it had annexed Korea across the Kerch Strait. And he wrote it, I decided to publish it, and then, oddly enough, just in the last week or so, it's been revealed that we've been put on this list of extremists and terrorists, which is a list monitored by the Russian Financial Information Monitor. And they launched a criminal investigation because they regard that op-ed as promoting terrorism. The thing that's extraordinary to me about this, and I should say that we're hardly a small number of people on this list. It's a big list, and it includes enormous organizations such as Meta, the parent of Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of people on this list. So it's, in some ways, it's kind of rather an absurdity. But it's one of those things where a tyrant like Putin does something in order to intimidate people from denouncing him as a tyrant and opposing him, and actually makes the case for opposing him by doing that. I mean, to designate journalists simply doing their job, making arguments in favor of one policy and against another policy, to designate them terrorists and extremists, is actually an argument why they should continue to do that.
We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And, there's been a reevaluation on the right of whether it's wise policy domestically to continue supporting Ukraine. How do you think Republicans should message better amid those, valid concerns about the problems at home?
Well, they certainly do need to message better. The Republicans are all over the place on this. There are those voices, including former President Trump, but also his acolytes like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who don't want to give money to Ukraine, and they talk about the money should be spent here at home. But this is one of those things where the United States needs to be and is big enough, powerful enough, important enough to do more than one thing at a time. It needs to be a positive force for good internationally, and to protect the dispensation which has lasted since the Second World War of rule of law, liberal democracy holding sway in Europe and increasing its spread around the world, rather than signaling to tyrants that it will give up and that their aggression will work. So it's not just a question of messaging, but it's important for Republicans and those who disagree with former President Trump to stand up for the principle of America doing the right thing. And it's important to recognize too that former President Trump's motto or slogan is "Make America Great Again." You don't make America great by retreating from the world and not living up to your international responsibilities.
Republicans on Capitol Hill, many of them do still support funding Ukraine, and they sort of have a chance to make that case with the upcoming machinations over getting Ukraine funding over the finish line. How do you see that playing out? And do you think that perhaps the White House made a strategic mistake here by tying it to the border bill?
Well, the Republicans wanted to tie it to the border bill as well. They said that they would not pass Ukraine aid without increased border security. there was a degree of cynicism in the Republican decision not to proceed with, to kill the bill, and to use the issue of border security as an electoral club with which to beat the Democrats in the coming election, just as there was equally cynicism when President Obama decided not to deal with migrants in 2012 and to use that as a club with which to beat Republicans. So definitely some cynicism involved there. That has become the kind of the orthodox and accepted narrative. But actually, there are very good reasons not to pass this bill, because it put too much discretion in the hands of an utterly untrustworthy president who has shown that he actually wants to increase this migration. So there was a lot that was left to his discretion in this bill, and it would probably have done nothing other than bail out Democratic constituencies and increase the flow, if anything, of migrants into the country. But there's every reason to take the bills, and you have to remember also President Biden threatened to veto an Israel aid bill if it wasn't tied to Ukraine aid. So there's been a lot of sort of shenanigans on both sides. All of these bills, Ukraine aid, Israel aid, etc., are worthy of passage, and what Congress and what Washington needs to do is to stand up to its responsibilities, consider these bills, and pass these things on their own merits.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more reporting from Hugo and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.